For hundreds of thousands of years, half the human population experienced the same thing every single month. And they handled it without pharmacies, without doctors, without any of the infrastructure we consider essential today. They built an entire system of knowledge, practical, medicinal, generational, passed from woman to woman across millennia. Then someone decided that knowledge was not worth writing down. And we lost most of it. That is not a small thing. That is one of the largest erasures in the history of human knowledge. And piecing together what actually happened, what ancient women knew, what they used, and what they figured out long before any man thought to ask, is one of the most surprising rabbit holes in all of human history. Let's start with the fact that shocks most people. The modern disposable pad was invented in 1888. That means for the entire span of ancient Egypt, Greece, Rome, the Middle Ages, the Aztec Empire, the Han Dynasty, and every civilization that came before and between, women were managing this with cloth, wool, plant fibers, and sea sponges. And they were doing it while building civilizations, raising children, running households, and in many cases, practicing medicine. Not despite this reality, alongside it. Ancient Egyptian women used softened papyrus and folded linen. The same civilization that invented calendars, architecture, and dental fillings treated menstruation not as shameful, but as connected to fertility and the cycles of the Nile. Women were not isolated. They were not restricted. Life continued. Egypt understood something that much of the ancient world would spend centuries getting wrong. Then came the men with their theories. Aristotle, one of the most celebrated minds in Western history, wrote that menstrual blood was essentially failed semen. His argument was that women's bodies attempted to produce semen but failed because women were biologically inferior. This was not a fringe idea. This became mainstream scientific consensus across the ancient Greek world and shaped medical thinking for over 1,000 years. Pliny the Elder in Rome went further. He wrote with absolute confidence that menstrual blood could kill crops, blunt swords, turn wine to vinegar, kill bees, make dogs go mad, and, his personal favorite, repel whirlwinds. A menstruating woman, according to Pliny, was a walking environmental catastrophe. Here is what is important about these theories. They were wrong. Completely, catastrophically wrong. But they were written down, preserved, copied, translated, and taught in universities for centuries. Meanwhile, the actual knowledge, what herbs reduced cramping, which plant fibers absorb best, how to manage pain across a cycle, lived in communities of women and was almost never written down. That asymmetry is not an accident. It is a pattern. Because here is what the historical record actually shows when you look carefully. Ancient women were not passive victims of their biology. They were systematic. Chinese physicians of the Han Dynasty documented detailed treatments for menstrual irregularity, specific herbal formulas targeting blood stagnation, cramping, and flow imbalance, and some of those formulas are still used in traditional Chinese medicine today. Medieval European herbalists documented plants that stimulate uterine contractions. Many of those plants contain compounds that modern pharmacology has since confirmed as physiologically active. Chamomile, ginger, cinnamon, fennel. These did not survive 2,000 years of medical tradition by accident. They survived because they worked. Women figured this out through accumulated empirical observation, generation after generation trying things, noting results, passing information forward. That is the scientific method. It just was not called that, and it was not written in Greek or Latin, and so history mostly ignored it. We have entire museums dedicated to ancient weapons. We reconstruct ancient battle formations in precise detail. We know how Roman soldiers laced their sandals. But the medical knowledge that half the population developed, refined, and passed down across hundreds of thousands of years barely appears in mainstream history. That is not an oversight. That is a choice. And it is about time someone started asking why.